is a lot right now. Are you feeling it? We all need new tools to help us walk through the chaos with grace, ease, and compassion for each other and for ourselves. In this podcast, you'll hear from parents, educators, and other experts who can bring perspective to the monumental job of parenting. It's time to level up and be warriors for our kids and our communities. This is the Warrior Parent Podcast. I'm Marci Mitchell.
And I'm Debbie DiManno. As parents, we understand that it really does take a village to raise our kids. We hope that this podcast serves to create and support that community for you. Join us as we discuss and practice our core tools, which are proven mind-body techniques that can be used by anyone to improve your life on a daily basis.
So welcome to the Warrior Parent Podcast today. We're so glad that you're joining us, and we will be talking with Cherith Fluker, a freelance writer, blogger, and dedicated professional in the field of EdTech. Cherith channels her passion for self-care and travel through her blog, What Cherith Thinks. Based in Alabama, she brings a wealth of experience, creativity, and a warm Southern perspective, we love that, to her writing. Cherith is married with 2 young adult children, and her work reflects a commitment to inspiring others to embrace life's journey with a sense of adventure and well-being. So welcome, Cherith.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
We're super excited to have Cherith here today. Marci, I don't think we've had anyone from Alabama yet. So
No, we haven't.
Yeah.
Feel like we've been traversing the country and Canada and some other parts of the world. So yes, you are our first Alabaman.
I'm excited about that.
Yes. So Cherith, we got connected through the podcast collaboration on Facebook. And oh my God, we're meeting so many amazing people through that venue, and that's how we found you. So thank you for sharing your time with us. We're super excited about that. So I was doing some recon on Cherith, and so we're super interested to talk about a lot of things. She's into all kinds of different things, so it's hard for me to pick a topic exactly. So a couple of things that we're interested in, and this one is near and dear to my heart, which is the pieces that you've done on self-love, right? There was a bunch of your blogs around self-love, obviously for yourself, self-love for teachers, as you've been a teacher for many years. And you basically said that there's a self-love crisis, I think.
I was doing research as I was getting ready to write that piece. And it talked about how there are so many people. And then when, I didn't even have to do a lot of research. I could think about me and my friends and family that I talk to. And I feel like so many of us are always looking for love externally. Like we're always looking for people or things to make us feel better about ourselves or to love ourselves, when in essence, all we really have to do is start within and do things for ourselves and love ourselves and accept our features and our personality for who and what it is. And I just think that's so important, is that we stop trying to look externally, because almost always we'll be disappointed because the people go away and the things go away, and our features change. But if we're confident and love who we are, then we have everything that we need to feel loved, and we don't have to necessarily depend so much on those external sources to provide us with what we have inside already to make us feel the things that we want to feel.
We always say it's an inside job, right? But we're all guilty of it. We're all looking outside, and all the noise and the social media doesn't help the situation. But I think, something that you spoke to really hit home, and especially with the world that we're living in right now, with all the hate and all the nonsense, is it comes back to, how do we have some human relationships, right? And you speak to this idea of, if you cannot have any love for yourself, right, then how in the world will you be able to have and show love for others, right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
expand on that a little bit. I love that
Well,
piece.
kind of along those same lines, if we are expecting other people to like in order for us to know what it is that makes us happy or make us feel loved, we have to be in tune with ourselves and we have to know ourselves in order to know what we're even looking for, which again is why we're almost always disappointed when we're looking at those external things because we don't even know what it is ourselves. Like we haven't sat with ourselves and
Yes.
and done things like journaled or tried different things out to see how they make us feel or explore different relationships with people like your friend groups and those types of things, doing things, trying new activities or hobbies or all those things to see and
Right.
really reflect when we do those things to see how we feel. And then that way we'll know how to help others, and we'll know things so that you're not getting mundane with your relationships and with your friendships, so that you are trying new things, saying new things, trying new gifts. You don't know unless you don't know how to do those things unless you have really kind of explored that to see you
Right.
know how you feel when you try different things or when you
Yeah.
go different places. Just I'll take for instance, I had told myself my entire life that I was not an outdoors girl, that I didn't like
Yeah.
being outdoors. But then recently I started doing things like going out hiking or sitting outside to work. I work remotely, so sitting outside, I just think about how like I feel so refreshed when I'm able to do those things, and I feel like
Yes.
I work harder just because the fresh air. I'm like, you know what,
Mhm.
I do like being outside, but if I had never tried
Yes.
going
Yeah.
outside more or doing things other than just going to the beach. I love going
Yeah.
to the beach, but
Yeah.
just thinking about like I said, trying things to see how they make you feel so that you'll know more about yourself and know what it makes you feel. What does I love this, or
Right.
what does that feel like?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think, we get, especially as women, we get, and you just mentioned before we got on about being an empty nester. So we have those years when we're mom and hard, where it's all about our kids and we got to keep them alive and we got to feed, we got to do
Absolutely.
all the stuff. It's important. And then they go off. And suddenly this is our opportunity to discover more about ourselves and for you to discover that, whoa, I
And
am an outdoor
that
woman.
is exactly what has happened with me. That is
I
exactly
love
what
it.
has happened.
I
I
love that.
started this space, my blog, and all these things after what I call a series of unfortunate events. I like to say that about all these things happened in my life in
Yes.
this one short span of time.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up as an only child with my parents at home, and both of them passed away within 3 months of each other.
Oh,
And then
Oh my
during
goodness.
that time, also, my second child went off to college. So I experienced the empty nest, the
mhm.
loss of my parents. And then it was right there, if you heard me say 2 years ago, it's right there when we were in that pandemic-y kind of
Yeah.
weird
Yeah.
space. And
Yeah.
so I
Wow.
really had to figure out um, what I needed in order for me to survive, is what I say.
Yeah.
Because actually, you have that feeling like everything, or not, I don't want to say everything because my husband's still here with me, but just a
Yeah.
lot of things that I loved and that I was living for, because as you said, we're pouring into, my
Yes.
parents were older, so I was,
Yes.
helping to take care of them. All of my attention was on my kids, and all of that was kind of snatched away at once. So
Yeah.
say at once, but again, it was about a 6 month period when all of this
Oh,
happened.
yeah.
So I had to figure out what is life going to look
Yeah.
like for me. Of
Yeah.
course, there was that period of, where I didn't love myself very much. I was kind
Mhm.
of depressed and I really needed something. And
Mm-hmm.
I was able to work with my therapist to figure out, well, I knew that I loved writing, but I hadn't really poured into my writing very much because I
Mm.
was busy momming, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then once I did it, I realized how much joy it brought to me. And then when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to write about, because I'm like, you can't just be out here, can't use your blog as a diary. You need to figure out
Mm-hmm.
how to use it in a useful
Yeah.
way, because I
Yeah.
like to help people. And
Yeah.
so in the process of me helping myself through a hard time of my life, other people started to read my self-care blogs, my
Yeah.
travel blogs, and
Mhm.
they were complimenting, and I was like, hey, this is something that is working for me, that's helping to heal me, and it's also helping other people. So I decided to dedicate my space of the internet to self-care, self-love, those family type issues and things that, and personal issues that I really enjoy writing about, and
Yeah.
that in the process really helped me to kind
Yeah.
of get what I call a second life. Like I have a second wind about me now. I'm
Yes.
I
Yes.
don't know. It's just, I feel like this is my thing. I spent a lot of time, like you said, doing things for everybody
Yes.
else and really not taking time to see what I liked or what I loved or what I needed to
Yes.
feel loved. So it's been very therapeutic for me. And in the process, it's helped a lot of people, and it's helped me to meet a lot of people and go a lot
Yeah.
of places that I might otherwise not have gone without my blog.
We
That's awesome.
talk a lot of the therapy and the work we do, with kids. We're not therapists, by the way, but the therapeutic type of tools, we call them, and one of them is journaling, of course. And I think you're no different from a lot of people who, discover this just because they have to. Like
Yes.
they just feel like they can't talk about it. They have to go somewhere
Yeah.
with it. We recently, gosh, I don't know, it's been a couple, 3 weeks ago, there was a woman from Canada, and she had had a couple of suicides in their very small town, and she had been journaling this whole time, and her journals became this really beautiful book. um well, I say beautiful, it's beautifully written, but about a subject that is very difficult to talk about. But it is a profound way of healing. And Marcia and I were just commenting on all your really beautiful writing in your blogs. Like there's a lot of good stuff there. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
yes, so you talk about being heavy on the self-love. So
Yeah.
so what are some tips, and what
So
are some
my husband says that I kind of go too far with that because I do everything in the name of self-love, right?
No such thing. And
No.
sometimes we're making up for lost time too, as women,
Yes.
I like that. I love that.
Yes.
I'm going to use that this
Yes.
next time. But I
Yeah.
feel like, um, again, the pandemic just kind of made me see how even though life is long, life is short. And I know people say that, but if you just sit back on the sidelines, I think about my parents, and I know they had so many things that they wanted to do, but that they poured into us and other family members that did so much for everybody else. And
Yes.
rarely did I see them doing for themselves. And I was like, I don't want that to be my story. So I
Yes.
started to just be really heavy, like I said, heavy on the self-love. If I
Yeah.
want to buy myself something, if I want to eat something, I work out. But I'm like, I'm also going to eat what
Yes.
I want to eat.
Yes.
I'm not going to,
Yes.
and of course, within reason when it comes to those types of things. But I
Yeah.
just don't I don't subscribe to that, wait until anymore. If
No.
if I need to do something for me, I'm going to do that. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to I'm going to take care of my responsibilities. I like to say that because,
You're not being crazy out there spending all the family time.
right.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely. We're going to be realistic about this thing, but we're also going to take care of ourselves. And I
Yeah.
feel like the way that I justify that, I say, if I'm not happy, if I'm not feeling the way that I need to feel, then I can't
Yeah.
take care of you. I can't take care of,
That's right.
work. I can't do any of those things if I'm not in a good place. So
Yeah.
it's just not postponing those things that you need to do for yourself. And it's not always spending money or going places, but if I want to have a day to where I'm just going to stay in my pajamas all day, or if someone asks me to volunteer at such and such, and I just don't have the capacity, is what I'll say. I don't have the
Yeah.
capacity. If I don't feel like I want to do it,
Yeah.
I no longer feel that pressure to say yes.
Yes.
I think about, I sit with myself for a minute and think about how this is going to impact me. And that's how I make decisions. So I'm heavy on me, I'm heavy on loving me, and I encourage others to do that. But also, like I said, we still have a life that we have to live, but you
Yeah.
just can't neglect yourself all the time. You can't, because I
Yeah.
feel like women, for sure, that we are experts in taking care of everybody else and leaving
Yeah.
ourselves out of
Yeah.
it. So I
Yeah.
just think that it's time to kind
So
of change
true.
that narrative so that we can, take care of ourselves and find ways to take care of ourselves while we're doing those things.
Yeah.
Setting boundaries at work, setting boundaries with your families, doing those things. There's a way to be able to do it all. Two things can be true. We can take care of ourselves and we can take care of the other things that we need to take care of. But we just need to be really clear about those boundaries and being really like honoring those boundaries and also requiring other people to respect those boundaries. I think
Yes.
that's the biggest thing.
Boundaries is one
Learn
of
the
my
word no.
favorite words now. And I don't think I knew it at all in my youth or even
Mm.
my, child raising years.
Absolutely.
Now that's one
Absolutely.
of my favorites. And it's so
Yes, and
important.
knowing that no is a complete sentence, we don't have to give
That's
Mhm.
right.
reason why. We don't owe anyone an explanation.
That's
I
right.
don't have the capacity to do that. I have a blog that's coming out soon on nice ways to say no, because I know I have people that are like, I can't tell people no, but there
Yeah.
are ways that you can say no and still kind of, respect the other person and
Yeah.
have them
Right.
also, respect your boundaries. Like,
Yeah.
just
So
don't
true.
owe anybody a full, and you don't owe them a let me get back to you if you know it's not something that
Yeah.
you don't want to
That's
do.
right.
Yeah.
It's just no, so that you don't have to, because
Yeah.
usually we walk away from that, let me get back to you, and we're stressing, we're trying to figure out how to make these
Yeah.
things happen.
Yeah.
But that's not my life anymore. I don't.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
also around relationships boundaries, because there are people that are just not good for us, that are just
Yeah,
not and so we don't have to make them the enemy. We don't have to make them the bad guy, but we can kind of say, you know what, this relationship is just not supporting me, and I can let it go. It doesn't mean I hate them. It doesn't mean, I put some sort of label on them, but it's not good for me. It's not feeding me. It's taking something that I need to keep.
right.
yeah.
That is
Yeah.
so
Well, I think she sort of nailed it. So number one on her list was honesty, right? And I
Mm,
think if we're being honest with ourselves, first and foremost, that self-love honesty, if you will, then ultimately we're taking care of the others too. Because if you can, like you said, say in such a way, if I'm going to be really honest with you about this, I this is not something that I really want to do, right?
right.
And that's okay.
It is,
But
and it gets easier. It's hard at first, especially if
it
you're one of these.
is.
yes, it
It's
takes
hard, but it
practice.
gets easier.
Yeah, it does. It does
Yeah.
take practice for sure.
Yeah, because we're conditioned to make everybody comfortable, to make everyone feel good, but often at our own expense, which is where we
Yep.
lose the self-love, and we're
Yeah.
just taking care of everyone else.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Cherith, I wanted to talk to you a little bit more. We talked about taking care of ourselves, and I know that you've been an educator for a number of years and worked in that capacity. And Marci and I have actually done a fair amount of work around with teachers in New York, actually,
Okay.
and done some live workshops with them and teaching them some of the tools that we speak about for self-care. So I want to talk a little bit about that group of people and how hard it is to be a teacher, including yourself and what you may have done during that time. I don't know if you were a teacher still during pandemic, but you might
No, I
might
was
talk about
not.
that too. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Yes.
well, and I still worked for the school system during the pandemic, but just in
Okay.
a different capacity.
Yeah.
But you know what? When I look back on my years as a teacher, I remember how much I loved being in the classroom, and I know how much it has evolved since I was in the classroom. There's just been a
Mm.
lot of changes.
Yeah.
But again, it's just like being a mom, having those unrealistic expectations on
Mm,
ourselves. I think
yeah.
sometimes as teachers, we like to be superwoman and we like to do it all.
Yeah.
But it's just that same thing as setting those boundaries. I don't know who started and I know that we can't get all of our work done within the school day, but I can remember bringing home so much work and
Mm.
working so often after hours and just
Mm.
burning myself out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
One thing that I would do differently or that I would encourage teachers to do is just find ways to set those boundaries. Maybe
Yes.
just instead of bringing home things every day, maybe you have a day or two that's your late
Mhm.
night that you have to work those extra hours, because we know that there's just a certain amount of prep work that teachers have to do to be
Right.
prepared, especially in those early years. But I think that when we try to do too much, it has that opposite effect. It burns us out and it really, makes
Mhm.
us not be our best. So I think just
Mhm.
Yeah.
finding ways, and I have a blog about that too, self-care for teachers, just
Yeah.
realizing and leaning into your teacher friends, because your teacher friends help you through. I know that is how I survived, and I'm still very good friends with teachers that I taught on the hall with, or across the hall, or in my department. It's just important to be able to talk to them, and not necessarily for a venting session, because we know venting has its place. It's helpful at times. But
Yeah.
just figuring out ways to do things smarter and not harder, and collaborating together with lesson planning and
Yeah.
those types of things, just to make your job, instead of, trying to do it all on your own, just
Yes.
figuring out ways together that you can make your job easier. I know we would do things sometimes, like if, there was a student that was just kind of being a lot that day, if you could just give me 5 minutes, if you could just have this student in your classroom for 5 minutes to give me just a moment to cool down, get myself together. I mean, just little things like that, and finding those strategies that really help you make it through the day without, or make it through your career without burning yourself out. We know that there are those times where you just can't avoid, like I said, those long hours, but that should not be an everyday thing.
Every day.
Right.
Yeah. Takes a
So
village.
yeah. So speak about the pandemic a little bit. There's, now that we're on the back end of it, we can see a lot of the mistakes that we made. And then there's all this discussion about kids being behind, and what that means, and is that really true? And I personally believe there's a lot of positive things that actually came from the pandemic,
Absolutely, I
right?
agree.
So
I agree. I think the biggest thing I know for teachers was that we changed a lot of our world. Makes me think about like my everything happening at once. Like we had to learn how to be online teachers, and that was not something that we were prepared to do.
No, that
And
was, you got dumped
teachers
right in the
don't
deep
like
end.
to be, yeah, teachers don't like to be unprepared. So I think that caused a lot of stress and frustration and anxiety, just because we were asked to do things that we frankly didn't know how to do, especially some teachers who were not really tech savvy. Like we didn't know how to do those. But at the same time, I think that now teachers are rocking and rolling with online teaching. And so now we have tapped into, we have new skills that we didn't know that we had before the pandemic. So I think that's a positive, is that people have really learned innovative ways to use Zooms, to be able to do things like, look at us here today. We probably would not have done this before the pandemic. So I think there were some good and bad things, but I think, like you said, a lot of the frustration and anxiety all happened because we were asked to do a lot of things that we just simply weren't prepared to do, and we didn't know how to do. And teachers don't like to know how to not do something. So I think that was difficult. So but again, the beauty in that is that now we have a set of skills. A lot of teachers have moved on to other professions because they learned so many, they learn things about themselves. They know how to do things that they didn't know they knew how to do. And I think that's a good and a bad thing, because we're losing some great teachers, but I also think that it empowered them to know that, hey, I could do other things if I'm unhappy here, because I don't care what you say, an unhappy teacher in a classroom, not a good combo. I wouldn't want my children in a classroom with a teacher that didn't want to be there.
Absolutely
If
not.
a teacher doesn't want to be there, I think that, they now feel empowered to do other things and to explore other career options that may be a better fit for them. So maybe now they're happier and they're loving themselves more. So I think there's some good and absolutely some bad in that. As far as the students, do I think that there was any truth to the learning loss? I absolutely do, because we know that every child's environment was not equal. So we had students who were continuing school as planned, and we have students that were unsupervised and that were maybe playing video games or doing other things to not continue their learning. So I think that there is some truth to that. And I think that it has really caused a struggle for teachers once those students are, now back in the regular classroom, and now they have all these different levels, which, you already have different levels of student learning and knowledge there. So now I feel like you have such a bigger gap, and teachers are having to be really innovative. A positive to that is now that we know more about how to utilize technology. Teachers are able to have like an extra set of hands, so to speak, because there are so many programs that have been developed that, teachers can now have students working on a platform, and maybe they're working specifically
Mhm.
with a teacher or with a group of students in a small
Mhm.
group to be able to give them that specific focused instruction that they need. So I
Yeah.
think that has been one positive of this whole pandemic too, is just helping us to be able to rethink how we're running classrooms.
Well, and I think the piece that we learned, which I think has been a really good thing, is that every kid learns so differently, right? So we saw those kids who were the Zoomers, if you will, and they were killing it. They were loving it. My daughter's
Right.
one of those.
Mhm.
And she actually started to be an online student before the pandemic because she had some health issues. So she's
Mhm.
graduating online from a really prestigious school
Oh, wow.
as a result of it.
Congratulations.
And then there are those who just didn't and really needed the hands-on and the one-on-one. And Marci has one of those that
Yeah, my
will
son
not
just
won't do
hates
it.
online stuff. So, and
Right.
he's in junior college now, but they did bring more of those classes, which I agree, it's more opportunities, it's more ways to learn, but yeah, you have to find what works for you.
Yeah, and I've been in classrooms in my current role where I'm able to support teachers, and it's been so nice to see those teachers who really do honor what students want. So
Yeah.
beautiful. I went inside one classroom, and they were, some of the students were using the online textbook, and some were using the printed
Mm-hmm.
materials, just because
Mm-hmm.
she said I let them choose. Some of my
That's
students
awesome.
really want to read on a
Yeah.
Kindle or on a iPad, and some of them are just like, no, don't.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, don't.
Yeah.
And so she said that once she stopped fighting that and gave them that choice,
Yes.
it was beautiful. Like, I was in that classroom and you would just see, it was beautiful. And so I think once
Yeah.
you stop fighting that fight and trying to make it all look one way, that it
Yes.
I
really
love that. I love that. That's so smart.
yes. And that's one
Yeah.
thing that I love about my role now, is because I'm in and out of so many schools, so many school districts. I'm able to see things that are working and share them with other school districts, because sometimes people just hadn't thought of that. Like, yeah, I can let them
Yes.
choose
Yeah.
if they want to use this or that, or, so it's
So
been great to
So
be able to do
so
that.
tell everyone what is your role now? What do you do as an
So my
educator?
role, I'm an implementation manager for an ed tech company. So my company makes software and educational materials for schools. And so once schools purchase, then I help them to determine the best implementation for the products that they've purchased.
Hmm.
So whether that's scheduling and setting up training, monitoring the implementation, the assessment. So that's what I get to do, is I sit down with districts, we create implementation plans, and then I just kind of follow and manage that implementation to make sure that everything, that we're meeting goals. If we're
Mhm.
not meeting those goals, we make adjustments to what we're doing, whether that's, time that they're spending utilizing the platform, different things like that. So it's
And
it's really cool. And I
and
do
you're
that for
all over
people.
the country then. So you
I
see
manage in a certain, I have a
the geography.
territory, but if they need
Yeah.
help in other areas, then I do that.
Hmm.
Currently, I manage in 5 states, but I
Hmm.
definitely help out wherever I need help. So part of
Yeah.
my job is I do some of the training too, actually some of the teacher training for the product. So I get to do that too. And it's really nice because I have that connection to the
Yeah.
classroom still, but I get to be in classrooms all over. So
Yeah.
it's nice.
That sounds great.
So
And
Marcy,
travel.
Yes.
yeah. So
Yeah.
Marcy and I are big believers in social and emotional learning.
Okay.
And so my question is whether or not that has anything to do with any of the teacher training that you do now. It's really just teaching kids what to do with their emotions, right?
Yes. Yes. And there are aspects of that in the software that we do. Like, there
Uh,
are parts that focus on social and emotional learning. So yes, we definitely support that.
oh, I
And
love
I do
that.
too think that that is very important. Even if
Mm.
you're looking at it, and there's sometimes ways to teach that through the text that students read or the things that they're focusing on. So yes,
Yeah.
absolutely agree with that. I think that's very important, especially for our teenagers.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Well,
think maybe that's because I taught high school, so that's
yes.
why I'm
Yes. We're sort of thinking if they knew it as kindergartners, maybe it wouldn't be such a
yes,
big thing
yes,
as
yes,
Right.
teenagers, right? And
yes.
then
And
and
it
then
is a
adults,
yes, because I
right?
taught high school, and it is a huge thing. And again,
Whew.
I've been out of the classroom now for um gosh, probably almost 10 years now. So it's definitely something that 10 years ago was plaguing our teens.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're finding ways to implement that into the curriculum so that they're able to better deal with their emotions.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right. Well, Marci and I think we're just about out of time.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Uh,
do
it's-
want to know how people can find you. So like your blog, any other links or connections you'd like
I
to
am
share?
all over the place. So
Yes. Tell
Yes,
us.
you are.
Tell us.
all over the place on my blog, What Cherith Thinks. And I put out new blog posts every single week. And usually there's 2 or 3 blog posts a week, depending on what my
Nice.
schedule looks like. Mostly there, I write about self-care and travel and family.
Mm.
You can also find me on Instagram. That's probably the best place. I hang out there the most. I also have a Facebook page though, and it is What Cherith Thinks as well. So
Okay. That's
Well,
awesome. We'll share those in our show notes so that people
thank
can
you.
find them. But it's been
Yeah.
so great to talk to you. You have such a wide variety of skills and knowledge, and we love to share that.
Well, it was fun talking to you. Thank you so much.
And now everybody knows what Cherith thinks.
Yes. But there's
yes.
more. So
Yes, there's more.
So much more.
A whole bunch
So
more.
much.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
Awesome.
for
All
your
right.
time.
Thank you.
All right.
And now for a moment about meditation and how it can help you and your family to self-regulate and mindfully return to a place of calm and centeredness. Our Core Tools platform consists of a number of proven tools and techniques that are designed to reduce stress, anxiety, and overwhelm in spite of what's going on in your world. Meditation is just one of these powerful tools. And through a special partnership with Donna Appadoni, we have created a group of meditations available only on our platform and via Donna's own website. Here's Donna.
Early science lesson. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It continues. Energy has no beginning or end. Hi, I'm Donna Appadoni, and I'm the person who writes and produces meditations for Cour Experience. Energy has no beginning and no end. We're all energy, and we're always energy. Even though you can't create or destroy energy, you can influence it. You can shape it. You can give it direction. Now that you know all the things you can do with energy, why not make sure you do something really good with it? Remember, whatever's happening with you right now, you can do anything you set your mind to do. That energy is flexible. I learned to change. I learned to be flexible. I learned to change with grace. I learned to change without a fight. I am energy. Neither created nor destroyed. I continue.
Donna's book, called Drive Time Meditations, is a collection of 183 of her purpose-driven motivators. Drive Time Meditations is available on Amazon.
Thank you for listening to the Warrior Parent Podcast. You can find us at coreexperience.org. Make sure you join us next week for another informative conversation to help you and your family show up mindfully, purposefully, and joyfully with each other and in your community.
Our meditation segment is produced by Donna Appadoni with music from Scott Holmes. The full collection of meditations is in Donna's book, Drive Time Meditations, available on Amazon and at donnaappadoni.com. Thanks to Samuel Hale, LLC, for sponsoring this podcast. Technical and marketing support comes from Inspire Your Brand. Our podcast editor is Justin Beeden. Opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of the hosts, producers, or financial supporters. I'm Debbie DiManno.
And I'm Marci Mitchell. The Warrior Parent Podcast is a production of Cour Experience. If you resonate with the idea of creating a community to help support kids and families, won't you join us by following the podcast and sharing this episode? You can even write a review. It truly does take a village, and we appreciate you.